Hello and welcome to the News Minute. For the past 4 months, the situation in Manipur is volatile and it's yet to improve. Even today, there are reports of violence in Manipur, and this is something that is concerning everyone. Like a lot of incidents have happened, a lot of new stories have cropped up, but Manipur still remains the same. The situation in Manipur still remains the same. To talk about this, I have with me my colleagues who visited Manipur recently. They are back from Manipur. They have filed several ground reports from Manipur and also video stories that tell you what exactly is happening on ground and how complex the issue of Manipur has become. Even as opposition parties have raised the issue in the parliament, they moved a no confidence motion. The prime minister spoke about it for almost 4 minutes. The home minister has answered, and they say that they are doing everything possible to try and control the situation in Manipur. Uh, my colleagues have first-hand information of what happened in Manipur. Joining me is Haritha John from Kerala, Prajwal Bhat, and Bhuvan from Bengaluru. Thank you so much for talking to us. Haritha, coming to you first. When you first landed in Manipur, what exactly was the situation? What did you see there? And you have been to the valley, you have been to the hills. So take us through what exactly is the situation on ground now.
We reached in Manipur on August 7th, and we were there for almost 2 weeks in Manipur, reporting from both from Bali and in the hills. So first, when we reached Imphal, we landed in Imphal, and first we reached Imphal town. It all seemed normal. The normalcy has been acquired. That's what we thought at first. In the town regions, even in the hillsides, whether we go to Churachandpur or Kamkokpi, in the town regions, the normalcy, it all looked normal. But when we took the next step, we realized that it's not as normal as we see. There was lot of hatred from in every sectors of society, whether it is academicians, medical professionals, doctors, whoever it is. They had a lot of hatred to the other community. That's what whoever we met, we just saw that hatred. The next step, that's from where we started reporting on how people we can understand people's complaints, pain, or who have been a lot, they're a lot of affected. They can't travel, maybe the people who live in Imphal, they can't travel more than 7 kilometers. When they travel across, maybe for 10 kilometers, they reach the other region, and that kind of frustrations are already there in people, but the hatred is incomparable. So that's what we saw in Manipur. That had really affected to the all other whatever happened in Manipur. That has this hatred is the base of that. So in the valley, first we visited the camps, the relief camps. There were different relief camps in valley, and there are three government directly run camps in the valley, which we don't find in the hills. We don't find government relief camps in the hills, in the cookie areas. There the camps are run by NGOs. So in the camps, we have seen these displaced people, displaced from the buffer zone. They have come to the camps, and they have been there for last 3 months, and they have lot of. They're not sure like when their life will be back to normal, because they used to ask her what happened to our houses. You people can travel to the other side and see what happened to our houses. We cannot actually tell them that your houses has been burned or your houses has been destroyed. Some of them knew that like their houses are no more there, it's been demolished. Just before the demolition, or just before their houses got burned, they just displaced to the camps. So that kind of tensions are there in the both sides. What happened to their properties in both sides. And yeah, like Prajwal has been reporting from Churachandpur for a long time, and he can also speak more about what the cookie areas has to say. I've been in the valley for most of my time.
Prajwal, coming to you, you have been traveling both in and out of you know uh, uh, Imphal and to the hills. Uh, just tell us what did you see there, and what exactly was the situation during your visit to these places. In fact, the first report that you filed from Manipur was about the hospitals, about the mortuaries, how bodies are piling up. Uh, the situation is still the same, or has something changed on ground?
Yeah. I want to start by saying two things. One is that when you enter Manipur, the first thing that strikes you is the fact that the two populations, the Kuki, which is a tribal community, and the Maitai, which is the community that lives in the valley areas of Manipur, they are separated. So you will find rare examples in the history of independent India where two populations are partitioned or separated like this and kept apart by a buffer zone where there are armed and paramilitary forces. So the rarity of this is something that will dawn upon you as soon as you enter Manipur. There is hardly any traces of Kuki populations in the Maitai areas, or hardly any traces of the Maitai population in the Kuki areas, which is astounding to think because they live together. They not only live together, they even married within each other until April or at the end of April this year. So the situation in Manipur now could be unimaginable as long as 6 months ago. So the second thing I want to say is that there are more than 150 dead bodies in the three major hospitals where dead bodies are being stored. Since the violence began on May 3rd, it has now been over 3 months, and the some of the dead bodies are laying there unclaimed because there are some dead bodies of the Kuki community in the Imphal area. There are some dead bodies of the Meitei community in the Churachandpur government hospital. So, if you want to measure or understand the scale of the disaster, I'm sure that it is impossible to measure the scale of the disaster. But if you make an attempt, I think the place to begin is to find out how many people have lost their lives and how many people have been affected. So, more than 60,000 were displaced and sent to relief camps or sent outside the state because of this violence. And the other thing was that there are more than 150 dead bodies in the morgues of the three major hospitals which are the only hospitals that can do a post-mortem. So you can get a sense of how many people have died by visiting these three hospitals, and that's what we did. The very first thing we did, the first day we were reporting there, is we diligently went to all three hospitals and tried to get a sense of how many dead bodies are there. And from there we kind of extrapolated the fact that there's a blockade, and that dead bodies cannot move from one side to the other, and this blockade is there in every sense. It's not just a walling or a partition on the road. There is a complete separation between what is a Kuki area and what is a Meta area.
Bhuvan, coming to you, tell us about your experience being there in a conflict zone, reporting from both sides. What did you see there?
So
What are
I,
your observations from the ground?
for me, when we went to Imphal and the things, I think there was a curfew for there for 2 3 days, so there was little movement. After that, we saw that people have started to move in Imphal area, but we went to Kuki areas. It's also important to note that Kuki areas are not that developed. The hills are not that developed as Imphal. So kind of development that Imphal has, the Kuki area doesn't have, and people, for them, life there is in a standstill. So, and even in Imphal, you see children in relief. There are so many children in relief camps, and in Imphal area, they go to the nearby schools. They're able to go to the nearby schools. But in some Kuki areas, most of the Kuki areas, they are still spending most of their time in relief camps. And as we speak, there are people, young men, youth, who are now guarding bunkers, taking up arms, and that is the saddest thing to see, because given how militarized the area is, how many we have to cross multiple checkposts of armies, of different regiments, of state police, central forces. Even then, there are people are on both sides are allowed to pick up guns and man their bunkers. So that is what I have been seeing.
Haritha, like Prajwal said, that you cannot estimate the extent of the damage that has been done, or the violence. But when you speak to doctors, when you speak to journalists, when you speak to academicians, what exactly are their views about what's happening in Manipur? What are they saying?
Uh, People have different reason to these clashes. Many says that it's illegal migrants. There is problem of drugs. Some point religious factors. So there are different reasons. Like obviously the clashes has got different reasons to that, and everybody I have seen like people saying that we have to take a stand now. They says that like we are forced to take a stand now. When I asked why are you guys so polarized, they say that we at least now we have to take a stand. So many whether it is academicians or when the liberal spaces has stringed in the in Imphal or in Manipur, they are forced to take a stand out there. So they have their own reasons to point at this at the clashes. And when we come to the common people who has been displaced, for them it's different. The men who guard the bunkers, women and children are sent to the rescue homes, to the relief camps, I'm sorry. So the men who guard the bunkers, they say that we are protecting our land, we need to protect our land, so that they have to keep that boundaries. They themselves made that boundaries just between this valley and hills, and they build bunkers and they guard those villages, and they say that we are protecting our land. For them, this just one reason is that we are protecting our land from illegal migrants. They firmly believe that the people from hills are trying to acquire their land by bringing people from Myanmar or some other country. So that's what they believe. For the people in the town areas, in the valley area, they believe that okay, this is an ethnic clash. Our ethnicity is being threatened. Our ethnicity is being attacked. So we are forced to take a stand here. And
Okay.
for the people
So
in
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
And for the people in hilly region, they are not targeting Meiteis as such. The cookies they target specially two groups, Arambai Tangol and Meitei Lebur. They name these two groups and they say that they are insurgent groups. They are trying to attack us. So everybody has got their own reasons out there.
Prajwal, like Haritha said, this is not about this is not violence. This is about protecting their land. This is about protecting their territory, because that's the narrative that the administration has successfully crafted after the Manipur violence erupted, and after the video that went viral. The entire country is talking about it. The opinion seems to be divided, but as far as the people of Manipur are concerned, you have been talking to both communities. What exactly is their demand, and what exact and how can the state government resolve this issue now? Is there an administration in the first place? Because the politicians who have traveled to Manipur, or people who have been closely watching Manipur, they say that Manipur is ruled by a mob now.
Yeah. So this is something that when you are reporting there, one of the things that uh, screams at you is the fact that the legal system has collapsed. There is, of course, there's one thing happening. There are thousands of FIRs that have been filed, but how much have these cases progressed? How much are the courts been able to, function? And how much has the legal system actually been able to address the the number of issues that have come up? Like you rightly mentioned, this is a complex issue, and there are little details in the conversation that we have had already. Bhuvan mentioned that schooling has been affected, and he also mentioned that there is a disparity between the valley areas or Imphal as a city and Churachandpur. I want to give you a picture of what the hill areas are like. Churachandpur is one of the bigger towns you will find in the hill areas. It's the one place where there is a district hospital that is doing post-mortem of the victims of the violence. Now, Churachandpur is a place that had its first KFC built this year, few weeks before the violence. Churachandpur is a place where Reliance Trend came this year, just few weeks before the violence. It was this town that was on the cusp of becoming a bigger city or a bigger town. And now what we see in Churachandpur is the traders are facing a loss in business. There are people who just have filled petrol in Bisleri, cans, and are selling it for what, rupees 120 a liter outside on the roadside in Churachandpur. So it's important to understand that there is, of course, there is the situation has affected everybody all over the state, but you will see that this is more apparent when you travel to towns like Chirochanpur, when you travel to towns like Saikul or Kangpokpi or More. So, to answer your question, what do people feel could be a resolution, or what is the questions or the demands that are coming out of this? Well, the cookie groups have said that what they want is a separate administration. Now, this has run into complications because what the cookies consider to be separate administration, or the territory they consider to be separate, is overlapping with the few areas that the Nagas consider to be their area. And there has been a history of the Naga movement since decades, where they are fighting for a greater Nagalim or a greater Nagaland. And they say that some of the territories marked out by the cookies is overlapping with their territory. And if the Nagas actually enter the conflict, now they've been very neutral, they've been very careful in crafting their statements, but in the last week they have given two strongly worded statements. One by the United Naga Council, which is the apex body of the Naga tribe, and the other by the NSC and IM, which is the insurgent group, that's the infamous insurgent groups on the Naga side. They've both given strong statements saying not an inch of the Naga land can be considered a cookie territory. So now we are talking about the violence that has been going on for 3 months and has, slowed down this month. But right now, if the Nagas enter the conflict, there is widespread belief that the violence can only intensify.
Uh, Now, you were talking about students getting affected in this violence. We saw your report from Manipur, UPSC aspirants picking up guns and, they're there in the bunkers, trying to guard the front lines or their territory. What has been the interaction like, off camera? When you are talking to them, what are they saying, and do they feel that they have been let down by this government because the government has failed to protect them, particularly the cookie youth?
My interactions with cookies in the bunkers has been, they're all tired now. They're all tired of, because they are just spending around 20 to 21 hours in a bunker, and they hardly have time to sleep. And your time that you spend in a bunker will not let you sleep also. So that is the thing. And they have lost complete faith in the state. So it is for them, it's just the union government that they're waiting for to give them what they want, their demands. For them, the state government they have a feeling that the state government only supports the majority group here, which is the Maite group, and so there is no role of state government for them. They have completely lost faith in that. And in our interactions, in our to both sides, to both bunkers, it was seen that there are guns, there are guns that are unlicensed guns, there are modern guns which both sides have. And but they'll make sure, because you have to cross a lot of checkpoints to reach a bunker, or when you enter a village there'll be a local women's group who will check you, and by the time you reach the bunker, by the time you reach the places, the frontline places, they would have informed them that the media is coming. So they hide the guns, they make sure that only the single barrel, double barrel guns are shown. But both sides have guns, both sides have modern guns, and some of them have never held a gun before. So in a bunker in a cookie village, I had just interviewed the person, and as I finished my interview, there were shots fired from the other side, and suddenly it was like everything was silent till then. Suddenly everybody started getting organized, and we had to duck down and sit in a bunker at that very moment. And it was a scary moment for me, because it was like, for them, they're used to it. They tell me that they're used to it, this is everyday thing. But I had just interviewed the person. I had asked him if he had held a gun before, if he had shot it before. He said, "No, I've never shot it before." And the firing happens, and at that point of time, you forget what is happening. At that point of time, you don't remember who you are, what were you doing. At that point of time, you only want to save yourself, your village, and retaliate. Even though both the communities bunkers are guarded, like in between there are central forces, armies, so there's no way that the other side can come to this side. But these are just blank fires to instigate the other side, and this side, then we'll be like, oh, how many shots did they fire? We'll fire them back. So that kind of hatred is sprung. Even though situation is calm, there is a lot of hatred, and as we speak, people are getting trained. People are getting more advanced. There are more advanced guns. There are more advanced techniques. Everybody has a walkie-talkie. So, and as the firing stopped a little, the person I interviewed comes up to me and says, I shot for the first time. So this is what is happening in the bunkers, where there is no hope. And after the bunker, in between, when the shots were fired, after its situation calmed down, they escorted me back to the village chief's house, where I had to stay the night. It becomes very difficult to sleep at night, because there are news of people walking into other communities, villages, and killing them, and the same happening from the other side. So you keep thinking, even though there's so many protection, so much checkposts there, you keep thinking someone might come and attack you. And that is what is happening there in children's minds, in people who are not in the bunkers. The regular villagers, the regular people, they don't, I don't think they're not able to sleep at night. And this sense of hopelessness is only growing day by day, because they don't know what is going to happen. And this makes you think, what is the central government doing? What are they waiting for? What are they what do they want things to happen? Do they want violence to erupt? So that has been my observation so far.
Prajwal, tell us about the vigilante groups that are there, because they seems to be very powerful. Because according to the reports that you have filed, these are the groups that are literally controlling Manipur now, be it the Arombai Tengol or the Mighty Lipon or the other women groups that they have set up, and how difficult it has become for the forces to operate in that region.
It has become extremely difficult for any forces deployed in Manipur to operate. There is, of course, a lot of allegations flying around, but what we saw was that there is, in a village, when people are defending the village or people are defending bunkers, there are also army regiments that are posted, paramilitary forces that are posted nearby. But from what we saw, they were not very keen to get into the conflict. When communities and their village volunteers are advancing or making, it's a war tactic. It's a situation of war, and they're using tactics. And the trenches have been dug, and bunkers have been made with sandbags, kept on top of each other. So in a situation like this, the forces, although they are posted there, have not been very heavily involved in coming to de-escalate the situation. The violence and the firing usually happens later on in the night, and sophisticated weapons are being used. One of our interviews with a surgeon in a hospital revealed the extent of the kind of weapons that are being used in the war. So this surgeon mentioned to us that he has treated sniper rifle wounds. He has treated, and he has come across, 2-inch mortar. He's come across sophisticated rifles, and this kind of rifles. And from interviews also, we figured out that the 303 rifle, which is a rifle with a modified scope, which is good for a long range, shooting, that has been heavily used in the violence in Manipur. So the question now that comes out of all this is that we are looking at a society that is very heavily militarized. Not only are there armed forces, not only are there paramilitary forces, there are common citizens with very heavy artillery. And when you talk about these groups, Arambai Tengol and Maitai Lipun, now from my reporting at least, I didn't come across Arambai Tengol and Maitai Lipun and groups like this very heavily involved in the gunfire. Of course, they are involved in the gunfire, but they are also very loud on social media. There are also other groups, insurgent groups, militant groups that have become involved in the gunfire, both on the Kuki side and on the Maitai side. So these groups are wearing commando uniforms, or they're wearing outfits that do not it does not match with any of the armed forces, and they are carrying around guns, and they are in the night there are reports that they are involved in the firings. So we are talking about a society that is very heavily militarized, and one of the ways that the society got militarized is because the state allowed them to get themselves militarized, because there have been FIRs filed in many police stations where arms have been given away, especially in the valley areas. Arms have been given away to the villagers in the valley to so that they can return
Given
to
away by
fire.
whom? It's the police that has distributed arms, right?
That is the allegation. So in one of the villages we were reporting in near Fyang, the village volunteers said that when the firing began, they could go to the police station and take back the arms that were being confiscated. In fact, the police did not do anything to stop them from taking those arms, because the police believed that without those arms, the Meitei villages did not have a chance. So we have a state that has actively armed the population with guns. And there have been multiple FIRs that have been lodged in this regard. Although the FIRs say that the arms have been looted, we have had interviews where people have admitted to us that they went to the police station and they took the arms. So the question that comes out of all this is that there is a massive task ahead of us to demilitarize Manipur, to ensure
To
that
disarm
the
people.
arms that have been, yeah, disarmament and disarming people has to be the priority. But we have not reached that stage yet. We are still in a stage where the conflict is still brewing. There is every chance that the violence could still yet escalate and erupt. There are talks happening in Delhi. There are hundreds of messages flowing between the two communities. But from our experience, they are both, lodged in military warfare tactics. They are thinking of what are the areas that are their strong points, what are the areas that are their weak points, that needs to be reinforced and defended. And even though fatigue is setting in, there seems to be no end to this violence.
Okay. Haritha, coming to you, were you able to visit all these villages, or what is the kind of access a reporter or a journalist gets in Manipur, both in the valley as well as in the Kuki areas, that is the hill districts?
It's totally different when a reporter visits both valley and cookie areas. So once we went to the cookie areas, they are well organized. They'll take you to all the villages. They'll take you to the affected areas, frontline areas, bunkers, and they have a proper channeling to all the affected areas, and they'll give you access to everything. Even if it is the Meitei areas in cookie regions where earlier the Meiteis lived and the houses were burned down totally, whether it is in Churachandpur or in Cycle, there are particular areas where Meitei houses are totally burned down. And they take you there. Then they take you there and they show you these were the Meitei houses and we have burned down that. And they admit to that. They have done it. Like equally they have burned the houses at the both sides. But cookie areas you have access. But in the valley, it's a bit different that they don't give you access. They'll take you to the bunkers, but it's kind of it's very closed. They don't give out informations. Same thing which happened in the Kopibang area where I tried to visit this Kopibang and Kamenlok area, around 10 villages in Kopibang and Kamenlok area. It comes under Kampoki district, but a lot of Meiteis as well as Kukis lived there. According to the people who lived in this Kopibang, the Kukis who lived in Kopibang and displaced to the relief camps in Saikul, have told that they started burning down the villages, the Kopibang villages, from June 12th, and within 2 days they have burnt down 10 villages. So some of the villages might have burnt by the Meiteis as well as by Kukis. Like both of them might be involved in it because they were living together in those villages out there. But the access to those villages, now the roads are only through the Meitei region. The roads can be connected through Imphal West, so that is being blocked by Meiteis. Through Kuki region, you have to climb the hills and go to, which is not so accessible. So, but the roads has been closed. That's what the problem I faced with Meitei region. But still, they complain after that you don't report about Meiteis because they don't give access to any regions. In Kukis, it's different. So these 10 villages, the main problem we face is that vigilante groups in the public places, not at the bunkers or not at the buffer zone. The women vigilante groups are very much present all throughout the valley. If we have to cross at least 4 or 5 central forces checkposts, we'll have to that's after crossing 4 or 5 central forces checkposts, we'll have to deal with 10 to 15 Mera Febi groups on the road. They'll check our bags, and they had taken all our camera bags. They checked our vehicles, and this is what we face mainly in the valley areas. In the valley, to move around in the valley areas,
Okay.
the checkings from vigilante groups is terrible.
Bhuvan, you were there along with Haritha while she was visiting those 10 villages that were burned down. There was army that was present there. There were Manipur police who were there on the spot. Uh, were there, did they come forward to help you, or like what was the situation that you had to, undergo or encounter there?
There is a Gurkha regiment present there who's guarding the area, and we were completely blocked by the Maites and Manipur police there, saying that there are insurgent groups inside. That if you visit them, they will not see who you are. They'll not see if you are. We were telling them we are media. We've been moving around Manipur for now for. We have been moving around for like 10 days now. So we told them that we have visited villages, we have visited conflict zones, so let us in. So they were like, no, they don't see who it is, they will fire at you. And we don't know how much truth there is to that. And so we reached out to Gurkha regiment, and we asked them, is there an official blockade from your side? And while we were visiting them, we were related to their headquarters camp there in a school, and we were waiting outside. As soon as the people there, the Myra Pabi, saw us waiting and talking to the officers there with the Gurkha regiment officers, around, like, it took almost 2 minutes for around at least 100 women Myra babies to gather around us, and they had a feeling that we were asking Gurkha regiment to accompany us to the villages. But Gurkha regiment on their side were pretty clear that there is no blockade from their side, but they cannot help us visit the villages. So this is also like how the forces are also helpless there. A couple of interactions off the record with a lot of military and army officers, they keep saying the same thing, that it is not in our hands. If it were in our hands, if we could stop it in 2 days, we could end this thing in 2 days, but it is not in our hands, and we all know whose hands it is in. So that is how situation is there.
Prajwal, before coming to you, I want to quickly go to Haritha once again. Haritha, you had filed a report about relief camps where Meitei women are protecting their friends who belong to the Kuki community. These are all heart-wrenching stories that came up from Manipur during your ground reporting, and also you had also written about your batchmate. Uh, if I get if I'm not wrong, her name is Nauba. She said that A for AK-47 is something that my children will learn from now onwards. So just take us through your conversation with these people while you were visiting the relief camps, and also when you actually met your batchmate over there in Manipur.
So the first report on this relief camps, when I visited one of the government relief camps in Imphal, so it was a huge relief camp. Around 500 inmates were there. The first I asked them, is there any cookie inmates there? So first they denied. Later, from their reaction, I realized that there is something out there. Then I kept on asking them, is there any cookie inmates there? Then they agreed that some cookie women are there. Around 10 women were there in the relief camp. They were married to Meitei men, and these people around them are protected. These are some kind of hopeful stories I got from Manipur, that they were protecting these couples. Some were newly married, some were married for 30-35 years, but they are still cookie women, and they were protecting, and they did not allow anyone else know that these cookie women are living out there. Even at the same time, when I visited to some of the cookie villages in Saikul, Churachandpur, they agreed that in some villages there are a few couples, few Meitei men living with their cookie wives in the villages, and the villages are protecting them, and they have asked them not to move out of the villages, and that was pretty positive stories from there, and it is there, like there are few couples being protected by the other communities. The second thing, when I met my batchmate, okay, that was we studied together 10 years ago in Sikkim. I contacted him soon after I reached Manipur, and at first he was reluctant to take me to his village. He said, "No, you cannot come here. It's not pretty. The situation is not pretty good." Then I kept on insisting that I'm coming there, and I also took a local journalist with me when I traveled to Fayeng. So Fayeng was a border village. The other side is a hill, actually a proper conflicted region. The Fayeng is. With a lot of bunkers, people have with all the sandbag bunkers and Manipur rifles and the IRBs camped in Fayeng. And the situation there was really worse, or many of the cookie houses were burnt down, schools were burnt down, and he was guarding one of this village, and he took us to many of the bunkers, and he told me this is the first time he's using the guns. And he also explained to me how they work, how the volunteers work. He has sent his wife and kids to the relief camp, and he and other men in the village is guarding it. And he showed me the school where his son studied, and it's all vandalized. And then see, that's when I asked him, do you wanted when I asked him, do you want your child to continue education? He says that, now what is the point of education? I'll teach him about guns. And yeah, most of the volunteers we met at the bunkers are hopeless, and they think that, okay, this is not going to end. Either of the community should completely vanish. Only then this will end. That's what many of them say. They are so hopeless, uh, and it was pretty painful to meet him and talk to him. And his house also, partially his house was also burnt down. Uh, yeah, that's how it was.
Prajwal, coming to you, Bhuvan had raised a very important point. During one of his interactions with the army men over there, he made he raised a point saying that if it is left to us, we would have brought this conflict to an end within 2 days. Is that possible? Or the army or the defense forces are their hands being tied because of the politics that is prevailing there on ground?
See, to answer this question, I think I'll just go back to one of the interactions I had in Manipur. So there was an army official who explained that nearly 1 lakh forces have been deployed, have been sent to Manipur since the conflict began. We are talking about a state with a 28 lakh population, and let's say if we make the attempt of understanding how many village volunteers or how many people are there who are involved in the armed gunfight, I don't think it will be more than the number of armed forces that have been deployed. It will be, in the thousands. So, of course, this was explained to me by many people, but none of them came on the record or were agreeing to speak about it openly. That the government is doing everything it can to douse the violence. But if you really ask this question, or if you really sit with somebody and have a conversation and ask this question, then it does emerge that if the government wanted to, it is possible to end this conflict, because the number of people that the government has to, disarm and keep at bay is much lesser than the number of people that have been deployed there in, who have been trained to do this. So this is the question that has plagued everybody's mind, and which is why a lot of questions are being asked. Why has this continued for over 3 months now, more than 100 days now? It's not like a riot in any other place in India. It's not like a clash that has erupted in any other place. This has been a conflict which has been marked by the use of extremely sophisticated weapons, the kind of which most conflicts in India have never seen, and it has been marked by the fact that the government has been silent. The first time we heard the union government actually acknowledge and talk about this was when the viral video emerged, and Modi was forced to speak outside the parliament. Now, if you want an honest answer to this question, then I think that you should spend some time in Manipur and you have to speak to people who are on ground. Everybody, consistently will say that there is a solution to this, but for some reason they've not been able to put boots on the ground. They've not been able to, counteractively find a solution to stop the violence from continuing.
Also, Prajwal, what was the reaction of the people of Manipur after the Prime Minister spoke, as part of the no confidence motion that was moved by the opposition parties? Were they hopeful, or did the speech give them some kind of hope that things will be resolved anytime soon?
On the day when the speech was made, I don't think that there were many in Manipur who even recognized that this is being discussed in the parliament, because there is a mobile internet shutdown, and the suspension of internet has been one of the topics of discussion in this conflict. So even now, only broadband services are up and running, and mobile internet is not available. So people have gone back to communicating with each other on the phone, on walkie-talkies. They People on both sides are hopeful that now that the union government has spoken about this, that there will be some progress in bringing the situation under control. But I think along with bringing the situation under control, there have been a lot of other fires that have come up and that need to be put out. Now, there's a question of where the supplies are going to come from for the hill districts. I know the government is trying to arrange for it, but there's no movement from the valley to the hills. So the kind of supplies that we experienced was running out was essential medicinal and food supplies. So, for instance, dialysis consumables, for instance, medicines that are crucial to fight complicated cancer cases, or medicines that are crucial for ART medication, which is the medication for patients who are HIV positive. Manipur is, even though it has a small population, has one of the highest incidences of HIV in the country. So these are all situations that need combating. These are all situations, crises that have come up alongside the armed conflict. We have a food crisis and a health crisis that have come up alongside the armed conflict. So the government has a lot that it's keeping it busy. And there have been a lot of questions raised by both communities as to, has the government done enough to address these issues that have come up? Has the government's response to the crisis been able to paper over the cracks?
Bhuvan, coming to you, information blockade is something that people are talking about. Why should Manipur witness, internet ban for 4 long months? Uh, you know, what is the sense that you are picking up when you are talking to students? How has this affected their lives and the lives of many others in Manipur?
So they are not able to talk to each other. They are not able to know what is happening around them. And one of the there are like many civil society people that I spoke to, and they keep saying is that it feels like we are back in the 80s, we are back in the 60s. So that is one of the greatest problem there, because you see there are people who have friends on the other side who want to talk to them, who want to know if they're fine. They don't want to discuss politics because then they have conflicting opinions, but they are worried about what is happening to them, what is the situation there. And people have no idea, because we keep traveling to different places. People ask us what is happening there, how is that village, how are the people there, how are the houses, how badly are the houses burnt there, how are they coping up. So they have no idea what is going on. Some people have access to broadband, but those are all privileged people, right? So they have access to broadband, and they are able to understand what scheme of things. But there are college students who don't have internet, who don't there's no way they can study. There are people who had to leave their jobs in different cities, have to come back, sit guard their villages and everything. And they keep telling me that there's no way I can work from home now. There's no way that they can do their work, have access to internet. So that is very bad, given the 21st century that we live in 2023, that there's an internet blockade for more than like so many days, and it's just bad.
Prajwal, according to the government, this is a fight against drugs. This is a war against drugs. That is what Biren Singh keeps, mentioning time and again. Even though he is not in TV channels now, TV channels are not reporting about Manipur. But you have filed a story from Manipur on what exactly is the problem there as far as drugs is concerned. Just tell our viewers about the story that you reported and what you saw there.
Among the many factors that have led to this violence, one of the underlying reasons is the state government's war on drugs, anti-narcotics initiative, which started in November 2018, and it has been nearly 5 years of it now. Now, reporting in areas where the Kuki population lives in the hills, you get the sense that there has been a lot of reasons that has led to an alliance of Kuki and Zo community groups that has opposed Chief Minister Biren Singh. Now, in 2015, when Biren Singh was still in the Congress, he was part of the drafting committee for three key bills that were introduced. These bills encompassed the identity of a Manipuri person, the land use in Manipur, and the Shops and Establishments Act in Manipur. So these three things were crucial to life in Manipur, and you saw the first emergence of Kuki Zo groups, which solidified and formed an alliance to oppose these bills. Now, Biren Singh then moved from the Congress to the BJP. He became the chief minister with the BJP in 2017, and since then he has been at the head of two different governments. One, a coalition government that he formed for the first term, and now a majority government in the second term. So now, in the start of the first term itself, the chief minister started the war on drugs. Now, the Kuki community perceived this war on drugs as a ruse or a screen to uproot their communities which live in the hill areas. Because when you talk about drugs in Manipur, you have to talk about the poppy cultivation that has proliferated in the hill areas. Now, poppy is the plant which is used to grow opium, a narcotic substance that is used to make higher grade drugs like heroin. Now, Manipur has for long been a drug trade route for drugs coming from the Golden Triangle, which is the region in Southeast Asia, which is known for having a thriving narcotics industry. So Manipur it shares a border with Myanmar, has long been a drug route. So what we found out in our reporting is that not only are drugs flowing through the border through Manipur and to different parts of India, now you also have drugs that are grown and produced locally in Manipur in what they call mobile factories, which is like a Breaking Bad version of a semi-settled drug production unit. Now, the state government has been talking about this war on drugs. You will see it everywhere you go in Imphal. You will see big hoardings which talk about the fact that we need to end poppy cultivation. But the Kuki communities feel that while a war on drugs is a good initiative, it has targeted the Kuki community for the fact that they grow poppy in the hills. And the one thing that is very inconsistent with the war on drugs, that has gone parallel with the war on drugs, is the fact that the price of the most popular drugs in Manipur have actually come down in the time that there is a supposed war on drugs. Now, the market factors that are driving the drug trade in Manipur have been unaffected, not even by the conflict. And the age of intake, the people who are taking these drugs, it has dropped from 20, 21 years of age to 14, 15 now. And increasingly, more and more high school students are prone to drug addiction. Now, when we talk about drugs, we visited many drug rehabilitation centers for filing this story. We visited drug rehabs in both the hill districts and in the valley. So what the sense we got is that we have a generation of youth, many of whom are pushed into drug use, not only because they are bored and curious to try it, but also because of socio-economic factors. Because they were working in a construction job in Imphal, and that they came across drug addiction among their colleagues, and they tried doing it. So the way to look at it is also not as a criminal issue, which a lot of activists will point out. The way to look at this is a health problem, is the fact that we should not identify that there is something wrong with the drug addict, but look at the factors that led to the a person taking to drugs, and how can we change those systemic factors? Now, this is the claim that the war on drugs has not holistically looked at the issue of drugs in Manipur, because the government does not have data as how many injecting or drug users are there in the state. The last time data was compiled was 2019, when the union government made a report which said that 34,000 drug users are there in Manipur. Now, if you take the total number of addicts in Manipur, it crosses over a lakh. But since 2019, which is around the time the war on drugs began, till now, there has been no study established to find the baseline data as to how many drug users are there. So, a lot of activists are questioning, if we don't know how many drug users are there, then how will we know in the future that we have made progress? How will we know that the war on drugs has been a success? So this has been one of the questions that have been raised repeatedly when we're reporting. And in fact, the government's own social welfare department admits that they don't have data, that there is an absence of data, but they say that we can also observe that the number of drug rehabs have increased. The number of government rehabs have gone up from 21 to 27 from 2019. The number of private rehabs have been recorded for the very first time by the state government, and they found 78 rehabs that have come forward and applied to be registered under the state government. Now they are under varying stages of approval. So you get the sense that there is an increasing amount of drug addiction among youth in Manipur. There is the fact that drug is available and in abundance, but you also have in parallel a war on drugs that has not made much of an impact.
Right. Okay, Prajwal, Bhuvan, and Haritha, thank you so much for talking to us and giving us details of what exactly is happening in Manipur and the first-hand information of the ground situation in Manipur. For our viewers, thank you so much for supporting this coverage. And you can read all those stories on our website, thenewsminute.com. It's under the header Manipur Dispatches. Do read all these detailed ground reports on Manipur, and also you can watch all our video stories on our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for talking to us and giving us details about what's happening on ground. We will also continuously keep a watch on the situation in Manipur, and we will also keep you informed about what's happening on ground. Thank you so much.